Over the past decade, many families have raised concerns about defence culture and the tragic impact it's had on their loved ones. The Skype scandal of the past week has once again highlighted the issue. It's one that 730 has covered extensively over many years. This week, we've gone back to families who've spoken out in the past, and they've told us that as they see it, a string of inquiries has done little to produce real change. For one mother, this latest incident of a young female cadet whose sexual encounter was broadcast to fellow cadets is particularly harrowing. Tracy Bowden reports.
It was like being catapulted back in time, really, to see that another young person had been made a victim twice over by officialdom.
For Susan Campbell, the story about a young woman traumatised by her experiences in the ADF has revived painful memories.
It's frustrating and it's saddening to think that 10 years after my own personal circumstances and having to find my daughter having taken her life, to find that another young person is being hounded by the same kind of officialdom and without any kind of apparent natural justice.
Eleanor Tibble was a 15-year-old Air Force cadet at Anglesea Barracks in Hobart. One of her training instructors reported he'd had an improper relationship with her, a claim she denied.
I said, but this is absolutely impossible. You know that you are her instructor. You know that she is only 15. She is a schoolgirl. You're a nearly 30-year-old man.
The instructor was not interviewed by his superiors, but Ellie Tibble was told she should resign or be dishonourably discharged. Then that advice was rescinded, but Eleanor Tibble was not informed. 15 days later, she committed suicide.
I found her. I found my child hanging by her neck in the woodshed because people wouldn't say to her, "There's no cause to answer."
But the anguish that Susan Campbell has endured has sadly been experienced by other military families. Jeremy Williams was 20.
The army killed my boy, and there is just no two ways about it.
Jeremy Williams injured his foot while training at Singleton Army Base north of Sydney and was sent to rehab and discharge, or R&D platoon. He told his parents he'd been subjected to denigrating and abusive treatment.
He said they make you feel worthless, we're described as heathen, malingerers, scum.
Charles Williams called the base to express his concern, asking that his comments remain confidential. That didn't happen. 3 days later, Jeremy Williams hanged himself. Today, Charles Williams despairs that the culture he believes was responsible for his son's death is still part of the fabric of the ADF.
The overall complexion of, sadly, of the Australian Defence Force is one of a culture that is persistent, entrenched and very much propelled by perpetrators who go unchecked in this form of behaviour.
You're with Australia Talks here on ABC Radio National.
If these kinds of incidents continue and are as persistent as they are, then we have to, it's pretty hard to shy away from the fact that there is some kind of problem there.
Sociologist Ben Wadham is taking part in a national radio forum on Australia's military culture. He's a former combat soldier and military policeman and has carried out extensive research into the subject.
This is such an enduring issue. It has been marked by inquiry after inquiry into a culture that is intensely closed, that operates as a kind of a brotherhood, that is male-dominated, and that is based around principles of secrecy and denial and distortion.
In 2005, a Senate inquiry into Australia's military justice system called for sweeping reforms. The committee made a series of recommendations, but critics say the most important one, Recommendation 29, was rejected by the federal government.
Recommendation 29 was that there would be a civil process applied to military misdemeanours, so that things would be both transparent, both to the public service and to the general public at large.
The government disagreed with Recommendation 29 on the basis that it would be a costly exercise that wouldn't provide real benefits in terms of increasing perceived independence. But sociologist Ben Wadham says Recommendation 29 would have provided the cadet in the current Skype scandal somewhere to turn.
Kate, for example, she would have had an avenue for a redress of grievance. She was unhappy with the way that she'd been treated. She wanted to go and express her grievance somewhere. She didn't have an avenue, so she went to the media.
While the families of young people who've suffered at the ADF welcome the inquiries announced this week, they say that in the end, action that leads to change is what's needed.
I think that unfortunately it is going to be probably a lifetime. It might be 25 years before we get rid of some of the entrenched attitudes.
We want to see an organisation that is both welcoming and respectful of our young Australians. That this country's Defence Force will not attract large numbers of intelligent, sensitive Australians if this behaviour is not stamped out.